Hey, Cakewalk users, I have a really awesome demonstration for you. So I need you first to go and take a look at a YouTube video it's called Live Loops, Digging and Composing on the Fly with Logic Pro's new flagship feature. So this is a brand new feature in Logic, but what I'm here to tell you is this is a feature that is already featured in Cakewalk. Okay, so it's accessible with Matrix View. Now, I just have a new, I opened a new file. So what I want to demonstrate is that you have this really awesome tool that's going to help you bring in loops, and you can bring in audio, and you can bring in MIDI, and you can make everything. It's pretty fantastic. Logic was right to incorporate this, but it's not new. I'm using Professional, which Sonar Professional, which was Cakewalk back. I bought it in 2015. So anyhow, I bought it, yes, but you have it for free, and it's there on your, in your list of features. It's there as your one of the things that you have to work with. All right, so if you notice, you have a bunch of different stuff. You have piano roll, matrix, staff, and I'll show you staff, this really cool thing that I've used before. Let's bring in miscellaneous loops. All right, so anyhow, so what I'm gonna do is bring in, so I wanted to show that we have so this is an old sample library that I've had from the year 2000. So this isn't anything that is like, oh, all these things are optimized. No, this is non-optimized. This is way old, right? So let's go to Bongo right here. Okay, so you remember the amazing Apache, or the incredible Apache, sorry, the incredible bongo band, Apache, right? So they had the bongo break, right? Okay. So anyhow, so bongo is going to be a different tempo than this break beat, which is a drum and bass. Okay. So those two are different. So now bongo, we're going to pull it in. It's going to match the tempo. Okay. So then how do we know that? Then we know because, well, so we can have bongo and break go on. So what I did was, in the middle of having bongo play, I played break, but it didn't start playing until the measure repeated. So check this out. So I'm going to click here, and I'll tell you when I click break. Click. It kind of works like an MPC. So that's really cool. That's like a really cool feature. So here's another thing too. Let me go ahead and delete these tracks. I don't need them. And actually, I'm not going to pull it into, I'm going to make an audio track of my own, right? And so if we notice the grid, let's view the vertical grid lines in front of clips. All right. So here we've got the grid lines, right? So we know where the measures are. So I'm going to take this bongo and I'm going to pull it, and boom, look, it fits the grid perfectly, right? So when we play it, okay, so then same thing with break, right? So let's do audio track, and then boom. So it fits perfectly, right? So I'm snap to grid, and it's going, so, and if I wanted to make of for blah, 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 right? So I can, and what's cool about that too is that you can actually use your effects. So if I wanted to, if I wanted to EQ, then I could go in and just run, so, I can add EQ, I can add delays, all the stuff that I have, you can do that. Okay, so then, and if you're within the Cakewalk, if you just have the Cakewalk stuff, well, that's all right. You can go in, and so Cakewalk here, you can use all the Sonatus stuff. You can use the channel tools, and then I believe you still have the the Nomad Factory, these the Blue Tubes Nomad Factory stuff. So anyhow, so you have those. Okay, so let's talk about MIDI. All right, so there's a couple of different options that you can do with MIDI. You can do, oh, and also too, sorry, before we do MIDI, you can actually, if you can trigger off of any kind of MIDI controller. Okay, so if you have, like, say, for instance, a keyboard controller or a keyboard pad like the Akai pads, Novation makes them, and there's a couple of other. These all work the same. So once you have them installed and you're able to trigger, you can play your synths. You can learn. So if you do a MIDI learn and then you hit a key on your keyboard, the next time that you hit that key, then you're able to actually trigger that sample. So beware, because if you are playing a synth on a different channel, or you have a track that's got a synth open and you wanted to hit that note, it will trigger that sample because it's learned it and you have to clear it. However, the cool part is that if you want to sort of like every time that you hit that while you're doing a performance, it'll work for you. So, take that creatively as you will. Okay. So the other thing, and so say, for instance, I'll just take one step further. Sorry. So I'll MIDI learn this one on another key. So I just hit the key. So then I'm going to trigger one and then trigger the other ones, but I'm going to use the keyboard rather than the mouse. Right. And I turned them off. I turned the triggers off. Right. And you can do it. It's either a loop, or you can do it as a one shot, go straight across, loop, right? And so, and then when it's when this is when it's highlighted, that means that it's going off of whatever the global setting is. And so if you unhighlighted it, then if you've unhighlighted it, then obviously, So you have a trigger resolution, right? So if you don't want it to start on the next measure, you want it to start on the eighth. Then so trigger resolution, follow global, right? So it's going to go off of like the eighth or the measure or whatever. So right now we had it on measure. So right now it's going to follow global, which means it's going to go on the eighth. So I'm going to trigger them. Check this out. Okay, so it's always going to be in time. You could do it immediate. All right, so then you'll see how it's off. Okay, and then let's see. So this is I think this is a retrigger, and then this is latch mode. All right, so check this out. So what I did was I made it to where it's going to not necessarily, so if you have it latch, it'll play the whole loop. If you hold it, I was holding the note down and then able to play it kind of like a performance, but it's still going along with the tempo. So, so that's cool. So then, okay, so cell start play from now versus... Okay, so now we're going to start it in the middle of the, so it's retrigger. So this is going to go back to the beginning. So one shot trigger resolution. Okay, so then follow global. Okay, and that's going to be immediate. So let's see. All right, so okay, so what we did there was I was just illustrating that you can kind of take off the where it goes in time, and you're sort of like playing stuff sort of out of time, which is which would be useful if, say, for instance, you wanted to kind of make it a little bit more of like a you wanted to make it a little bit more of like nuanced rather than sort of like staying on the grid. You wanted to kind of come off the grid a little bit. Okay, so anyhow, so that's how you can just sort of demonstrating some of the things you could do with your MIDI controller. Okay, so then we'll talk about the actual MIDI files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull an instrument in, and this will be a drum, my drum program. So I actually bought the program. I don't know why the thing won't authorize, but it doesn't give me any problems, so I'm not really going to worry about it. So let's see, let's see, let's do, I like this. Okay. Pretty dry and pretty nice. Okay, so then let's go to these. I'm taking these like MIDI groove clips that they're not mapped to Addictive Drums. They're mapped to Cakewalk's original sound sources. So I just like the way Addictive Drums sound, and I paid for them. So okay, so then let's do the drums. It's not going to sound like the drums. Watch. So let's do just some pop thing. So we're going to do pop here. So anyway, yeah, so that would go. So you can essentially have your MIDI triggered by the matrix, and then it'll go and do the. So let's look at what that MIDI file looks like. So essentially, you have it. So you have your bass drum. I wonder if that's supposed to be a snare. So let's move these, or a snare, sorry. So let's move these to the hi-hat. And then let's move this to the snare. So let's see if this is what it's supposed to sound like. Okay, it's probably because this, let's turn this down a little bit. I'm just trying to get a context as to what's that supposed to sound like. All right. All right, that's what it sounds like. Anyway, okay, so then. All right, it's like a polka. Anyway, that's a. Okay. So it did. So this actually, let's do clear. Let's see if this comes. All right. So the significance of that is what I did is I changed the MIDI. So you can create a MIDI file here, pull it here, and then now you've got a triggerable MIDI file or a trigger, and you can do this with synths. You can do, let's say, let's go to some scales, right? Okay, so let's pull in just a synth. Let's do. Okay, and then let's see. So let's pull in this minor pentatonic. All right, here we go. So then, well, that's great. Okay, so let's see what's. Oh, it's because I have this soloed, right? All right, that sounds fun. But anyways, so you get the point of it, though, is that you can pull in a MIDI file and you can pull it, and if you have a synth, then everything sort of aligns and you can use that. Again, you can trigger it to your MIDI keyboard, and then you have. Okay, and then you can also pull in a. So if you have an audio file, or say you record something with your, you record something, a keyboard thing, or your your distorted guitar, or you have a sample or whatever, you can pull that in. Let's see if I have anything. No. Let's go. Oh, you know what? I have drops. Where are my drops? No. Drops. No. Drops. No. Drops. Okay. So, Shia, whatever.
Do it!
All right. So, obviously, let's see if we can trigger resolution. Okay, so it's still going to follow the, kind of don't want this to follow the, because it gets affected somehow because of the, let's see if we drop the tempo. Okay, check this out.
Do it!
All right. May need to figure out how that gets. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Let's do. No.
Don't let. Do it!
All right. Okay.
Do it!
Okay. All right. So let's see if that gets affected.
Do it!
Yeah, it still does. All right. Anyways, I have to figure that out. But what we have is we can essentially record something, right? Pretend that that's like a recording that you did, and you can pull that in. It will be affected by tempo, so I figure if you're performing it to tempo, then it shouldn't realign it. It should be okay. So then if it realigns it, you can kick it back out. Okay, so let's do that. Now notice the difference in files. So let's undo that. Right? So you have obviously this Shia is much different than this Shia. Haha. Okay. Anyhow, so that's so those are some features within so if you look at the you look at live loops, they've got all these different features, right? So one of the things is that you can have all of this row play, then this row play, and you could this trigger in from down here. So the same thing happens here. Okay, so then same thing. You can play all of these. You can line them up in a row, you can mix because these all, once you pull them in, they'll have their own little, so row one. So let's take row one, right? So you can pull that. Let's do. So then you can affect it. So same way, same thing. You can pull in your, any of your. What were we looking at? Yeah, let's do. I had it on a different layout. That's right. So you can use your EQs and your effects and all the other stuff on that. So if we, used to hitting the space bar to stop it. Okay, so essentially, you can pull in all of these. You can solo them out. I mean, sky's the limit, man. Like, you can route it, obviously, because you have a channel. So the channel will route. So if you want to send it to an aux, you want to send it to, to a mixing console, you can do that. So you have an MPC on your DAW. You have an MPC in Cakewalk. It's right here. And so if you have, you have a bunch of, now one thing I got to say is that, let's go back to loops. If it's on the same line, then once this plays, but they won't play at the same time. So that you can use to your advantage as well, because you can kind of trigger one, then you trigger another one, blah 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 blah. So so there you go. Probably a long-winded example, but I mean, I think this is chock full of things you can use. You can drag and drop. You can really explore without having to really have any like recording. You don't need to record into the DAW. You can actually use it to trigger your effects. You can live trigger. So all this stuff you can do it sort of on the fly as well, if you as long as you make link everything, map everything to your keyboard. So there you go. Have at it. Enjoy. Cakewalk.